Hello, and welcome to this special edition of the ILEETA Learning Lab. I'm Joe Willis, the Deputy Executive Director for ILEETA, and today I'm here with Doug Wyllie, a well-known face around the industry, somebody who definitely knows this topic. He's going to talk to us about his 2026 presentation for the 2026 ILEETA Conference and Expo, turning your training curriculum into compelling online content. Doug, honestly, if anyone knows about this, it's you, and I cannot wait to hear what you're going to talk to us about at the conference. So without any further ado, man, take it away. What are we going to learn about this year?
Joe, it's a pleasure to be with you today. And honestly, it's a great honor to return to ILEETA. It's one of my very favorite things about life is to go and see my brothers and sisters at ILEETA every couple of years. It's been a couple since I've been back, so I'm excited to teach this. I taught this version of it back in 2014. It's evolved quite a lot since then. I've taken some of the things that I've learned over the course of around 15 years as a editor at Police One at first, and then Police Magazine, taking people's content, whether that's from their training or from their experiences, and turning that into something that's a little bit more, let's say, appealing for an online audience. A lot of folks who have written articles for magazines, a lot of folks who have done long form videos, a lot of folks who have done various other types of media, maybe need a little bit of guidance in how to turn that stuff into online content, which is a very different animal than those things. And then, of course, there are people who have never really tried to take what they do in a classroom, let's say for 8 hours or 16 hours or on the range or in a mat room or even just as an FTO in the squad car and driving around, and you're teaching and you're kind of passing along that information, and you take that and try and distill it down into again, something that an audience that is online, that's very, very fungible. These people they tend to get away from you very quickly if you don't hold them very tightly, and turn that information into something that's digestible and manageable for the online audience. So it's going to take some of my experiences that I've had over the course of, I've been a writer for 30 years. I've done a lot of video. I've done probably around 5,000 of each of those things, video and written content. So it's a little bit of what I do and what I've done, but it's also, I've interviewed 3 very successful, also ILEETA members, and that when you see them, I have video of them, and I'm going to have some audio from them as well in the course. You'll recognize every one of them. They're well-known ILEETA people, and they've gone from one stage of being an online creator to being kind of superstars of that universe, and not just the police universe, but also kind of they could easily translate their capabilities into any other type of content. But they are law enforcement trainers, and they've been very successful at what they've done offline, and with a little bit of cooperation with me, maybe a little collaboration with me, they've kind of turned into, kind of those rock stars. So I'm hopeful that I'll share not just my knowledge, but the knowledge of other people. And there will be people probably in the room that have their own experience, whether it's for writing for the ILEETA Journal, or writing for one of the websites that I've worked for, or for another website, or magazines, or the various other things. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion, not quite a round table with everybody involved, but there will be some back and forth about what works for you and what works for you and what works for you, and involving the audience as much as possible in that short time frame that we have.
Yeah, and with only an hour and 45 minutes, that goes so fast. And it seems to me that and the ILEETA audience, that engagement is such a huge part of it. And you will have in the room a wide variety of experiences. And so clearly getting the message from you is going to be the paramount thing, right? But there's also so much tangential learning and networking that happens in those classrooms. So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's not just about written content, how to write a good article and that sort of thing. You're also going to get into the fact that we now have a much greater reach, a much larger stage for content to be produced specifically for consumption online, written or video. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways they go together. So we're going to cover whether or not an article or a piece of content, or I should say, a piece of content, whether it's best suited to being an article, best suited to being a video, or best suited to being sort of a synthesis of two. You kind of take those two different types of content and marry them together, whether or not they live together on the same page or they sort of coexist in parallel but kind of reference one another. So you have kind of cross-pollination, where you'll have a person who's, who prefers to consume their online content in the written form, maybe on their phone and sitting in their smallest room in the house, or whether or not they want to watch it on video, if it's on YouTube or another channel that you can cast to your television. So you give people an option to consume it, but also you have to have an option as a content producer or as someone who's making this stuff. And I want people to be at least somewhat versed in both types and making the decision as to how they're going to present their content. First and foremost, we're going to start with why do you want to produce content online? And there's going to be 5 or 6 different whys. Whether or not you want to promote your business as a trainer, as a private trainer, whether or not you want to get a promotion within your agency, whether or not you just want to, as an egalitarian practice, just spread the word to officers worldwide. There's a lot of different whys. And so that why will also help you understand sort of the what you're going to do, the how you're going to do it, the where you're going to do it, the when you're going to do it. And sometimes it's the who, because maybe the who isn't necessarily you. Like if you have a cadre of 5 trainers and each one is versed in a certain thing and a certain instance comes up for content to be produced, whether it's a response to a news article or response to a news event, or whether it's something you want to be evergreen and last forever, you may not be the person as the skipper of the ship, the best person to pilot that boat right now. It might be the first mate. So there's a few questions we're going to address for everyone in the room about, why, who, what, when, where, and how. And then we'll get into some of the other things that kind of tend to be not universal, but pretty doggone good at making sure that you have content that's going to attract an audience. And those are, I tend to call those the 3 C's. It became the 5 C's: conflict, controversy, and change. And if you have one of those, you have a story. If you have 2 of those, you have a story today and tomorrow. If you have all 3 of those, you might have that same story or another story just like it for a week or a month. And you can add to that, whether that's going to be cash, whether the dollar amount is big enough, budgets, things of that nature, defund the police, things of that nature, comedy. Everyone likes to read a funny story. So if you have some essence of comedy in your piece of content, you can maybe make that other piece. So if you have conflict and comedy, you have cash and comedy, you have those. So there's ways in which you can have building blocks, and they work again for both written articles and for video.
I love it. And so let me ask you before, because I do kind of want to get into the why and the how just a little bit with you. We don't have a lot of time today, but let's talk about the what first. So is this sort of mindset, this paradigm appropriate for any genre of training? So if I'm a firearms instructor, I'm a DT instructor, I'm a legal guy, whatever my niche that I focus on best, does it all kind of fit in this space? And are there industries, or not industries, but niches that it works better with?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because there are certain elements to law enforcement training that will lend themselves better to whether it's video or it's written. So if you have something, let's say, very deep in the weeds from a legal perspective, and there are a lot of citations to court cases, you want to have the ability to link out to that stuff. You want to have the ability to have, so that's kind of leaning into the written word, right? Now you may have, so for example, Jonathan Turley on Fox News will explain a thing in a 3-minute segment, what they call on TV a hit, or 4-minute segment at the max, and he'll have a lot of really great content. He's a law professor, so he's spoken about these things for years and years and years. But he'll also have an article on the Fox website that's kind of more deep down and in the weeds of that. So that's where we're talking about having both. Firearms instruction. You can have kind of the 3 tenets of whatever it is you're instructing. And I'm not going to try to pretend I'm a firearms instructor. I'm not. But you have those 3 things that you want to have, that you want to express. You can go deeper in the weeds with a written article that has links to other articles, that has sidebar articles, that has series or dead, but you can have coexisting articles for one article for each of those 3 things. And then you can have a 4 or 5 minute video that kind of wraps all that up in sort of a nice little bundle that speaks to, hey, click on the link in the comments to get these first 3 or 4 articles that I've written on this thing. So there is something for everyone in terms of what you're trying to teach. And it's a matter of trying to decide as a content producer, how am I best going to get that information out?
Got it. And so if I'm somebody who teaches in this space and I'm on the fence, this is still a class worth coming to because I'm going to figure out how to make my niche matter in this online content space. And I think it's something almost everybody's struggling with, even internally, right? So how do I put the best content on our agency's LMS so that people are getting those micro learnings? How can I create roll call video training appropriately that the entire agency gets? Everybody's, even internally, but certainly externally, as you mentioned, lots of different reasons. So you've got the who it's appropriate for, as far as all niches, every sector of law enforcement training, all different audience types. You talked a little bit about the how, getting after those 5 C's. I think that is definitely something that in and of itself, learning how to manage those is worth stopping in for. But now let's talk about the what of this. Now, as we kind of look at all the different ways we can push online content out, what are some of the mediums that you might discuss, or where would one go to push out online content? What do you think?
Yeah, so that's one of the pieces that we will talk about. So I, of course, have experience in the house working at Police One. I did that for 10 years. I worked for Police Magazine for 5 years. I'm pretty good friends, if not friends, then at least associates with other people in the online publishing world with regards to law enforcement publishing. I have a little bit of experience with regards to doing your own thing, WordPress, YouTube channels. Those are the types of avenues through which you can get your stuff out. There's also, as a former public relations guy way, way, way back, I also know how to pitch, and I'm hopefully going to help people understand you can pitch your expertise to the local paper, to the local television station, to the outlet that you need to choose that is best appropriate for you. And again, that goes right back to your why. Why am I doing this? Do I want to be on CNN to get an international audience? Do I want to be in the local area media, whether that's your local ABC television station at 6 o'clock, whether that's a regular contributor to the local newspaper, because you want to run for sheriff one day? Whether or not, your why is going to determine a lot of that outlet through which you're going to try and get your stuff. The ILEETA Journal, if you want to continue to be to progress as an ILEETA instructor and get to be better known and have a better reputation over year, the ILEETA Journal is a great place for that. So that becomes a really viable outlet for you. So a lot of your where becomes the why. And we're also going to discuss the where when you're going to produce your content. Where has to do with, do you need a quiet place to write? Do you like to have ambient noise? Are you going to do video? If you're going to do video, do you need a studio type thing that Tucker Carlson has at his home, or do you need to have something that's going to work for you on the range? So we're going to cover a lot of that type of very nutsy, boltsy, practical tips and tricks that you can use to kind of take what you want it, what your vision for your creation is, and try and give you the avenue through which you can achieve that vision.
I love it. And, guys like Todd Fletcher come to mind, and some of the work he's doing in this space. And, he did a video for us for ILEETA Live the other night, and the microphone setups in SHOT Show or on the range that are now easily available for folks. If I understand correctly, you're going to put this class together in such a way and be able to give some guidance on how to make that matter. So if I'm producing content on the range, or I'm at the EVOC course and I want to talk about something, it's gonna apply regardless of the location and everything else, right?
Absolutely. And you raise a really interesting point. There used to be a day back, really not too very long ago, where you needed to have professional camera equipment. You needed to have professional microphones. Right. Those days are kind of gone. I'm not going to take into account the cost of your iPhone or the cost of your ridiculous Android phone. That set aside, you're going to own that phone anyhow. But for probably under $200, and that's getting spendy, you can get your tripod, your ring light, your lavalier microphone, some manner of extra lighting that's side lighting that's not your ring lights. That could even just be camping lanterns. That could be a whole variety of things. So there's a lot of little solutions that you can do that make your presentation much more professional looking without a huge dollar investment. Now, could you invest $1,000 in that equipment? Absolutely. Do you have to? Positively not. So there's other ways you can get this content out and do it kind of on a shoestring or on a budget, but also make yourself look as professional as possible.
Perfect. Yeah, I think, content is king, right? And just producing it. All the instructors at ILEETA, all ILEETA members, have a story to tell. There is there's more to the message than the class they put on from the front of the room or out there on the range or whatever. And there's always those little details, right? Like those strings that can be pulled for so much more that you don't really have time for. And I think, one of the things you're offering here is the ability for the instructor to say, hey, scan this QR code. It'll take you to a landing page that has 15 videos on this topic. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but add this to your library, things to watch later on. Or you gave another great example of, the community, how we communicate through those platforms that are available, the local newspapers, the local TV stations, that sort of thing. So if I'm a physical security, right? Like that is, I'm a detective and I go out and I do physical security inspections of houses or schools or businesses or whatever. And I want to produce video content that says, hey, here's how you do this on your own. That's an example of how I could use your class, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I don't mention it in class, there's going to be ways to reach me during the course of the week that I'm there. I teach on Monday and Friday. I plan to be there Sunday to Saturday. So if a question comes up that's not actually in the class, we can definitely address that. Or if it's not in my slide deck, we can certainly address that. But my hope is that I'm going to have enough of that sort of thing. You mentioned the QR code. Yes. On the back of my business card at Police One was not my email address. It was a QR code. So you scan that and it took you to my columnist page. So there's little things that you can do that are really small, like little teeny tiny tactical things that get you a little bit further ahead in the online content space because it shows that you're savvy, right? I'm not going to ask you to write down my email address. I'm going to just have you take a picture of it with your phone. That's really important stuff. And I'm going to try and push as much of that 10 pounds into a 5-pound bag. But there are, of course, going to be places where I'm going to go, oh, I wish I taught that because it got asked at the bar, and we'll have that conversation. And maybe I might fit it in on Friday.
Yep, that's one of the things I love about teaching twice at ILEETA is you teach on Monday or Tuesday, and it's a absolute outstanding class. But that person asks a question on Wednesday night, and you're like, "Yep, that fits in." And now I can teach it on Thursday morning or Friday afternoon. So as we kind of look at where this all could go, and there is so much in this. When you first submitted this proposal, man, I got very excited because I think this is a great place for us to engage next. What would you tell people who are on the fence? I want to create content. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And what would you tell them?
Well, one of the things I would tell them is just start. There is no tomorrow necessarily. So you're not going to be great at anything that you do right away. And so expect that you will find opportunities to improve every single time you do it and have the 1% mindset. If you're just 1% better tomorrow than you were today, then you're making tremendous progress. So that's the first thing that I would tell you is don't get intimidated by the fact that you're not going to be great at it right now. You will get great if you try, and especially if you get some help, if you get some advice, if you have a mentor, if you have it, and again, this is what I did. I just read a lot of people. I read a lot of people. So I was able to get better at what I did because I kind of took some of the stuff that I thought worked for me and I left aside some of the things that I thought maybe weren't really my personality. So I'm going to hopefully give people the opportunity to say, I know I can do it. You definitely can do it. Whether or not it's you want to do video or you want to do writing, it isn't that terribly difficult. It's intimidating. It's definitely intimidating at first. But once you get your feet wet, especially if you enjoy the process, you will absolutely get better at it.
Perfect. Yeah. And I mean, that answers a lot of the question on when to start, right? Like, what do I do? How do I even get there? Right. There's the barrier to entry is start typing, turn the camera on and start speaking. Right. So a low barrier to entry. And like you mentioned earlier, the cost to entry, everybody's got a computer, everybody's got a phone at this point. It's already there, then start to improve over time. So that being out of the way, and we're past the imposter syndrome, we're past the denial, over the barriers. Couple quick tips to getting the best quality content without giving away your whole presentation, best quality content we can do.
Well, one of the things that I'm going to mention is that artificial intelligence is a real deal. In fact, I used it to help me build the presentation. Don't be afraid of it, but don't lean on it too heavily. Artificial intelligence can help you with your grammar, your spelling, your sentence structure, your verb agreement, all the little nutsy boltsy things that you may or may not remember from high school, right? And you probably haven't had a real reason to use in writing police reports. So writing a police report and writing an article are totally different animals. And believe me, I've received a lot of police reports as the editor of Police One, and they have to be turned into something that is usable. So AI is one of those little things that you can use, and there's obviously free versions and ones that you could pay for. Another thing is find someone who you admire as a writer. Send them an email and say, hey, would you look at what I've written? And 99% of the people who receive that email are going to be, number one, flattered that you thought of them, and number two, more than happy to try to help you get along and to become a better writer. So find someone that can be not necessarily your editor, but maybe a sounding board, or maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's your son or your daughter, maybe it's any other person, maybe it's the person in your squad car. Sounding boards are very useful. So there's really, again, like you had said, low barriers to entry that will help give you kind of an additional leg up over someone who hasn't heard this advice from me or someone else. I mean, I'm not divulging trade secrets. This is not exactly unknown information. It just may be unknown to the audience who's in the room at the time.
Love it. So why this class? What caused you to want to do this particular class, and why is it important to the profession?
Initially, when I did it in 2014, it was in part to try to get the people who are at ILEETA to be better at giving me articles when I worked for Police One. That was my why then. My why now is actually is evolved, and we're going to talk about the evolution of your why. You may start doing your why because you want to become sheriff, and you decide you don't want to become sheriff anymore. You just want to become a police trainer. So your why may evolve. Mine has evolved insofar as I just feel like I have something that I can share as expertise, that I can help give back to the people who gave me such joy when I was deep in the law enforcement universe. Now, of course, I'm in the law enforcement universe, but I drive a school bus for a living now, and occasionally I'll help someone out in the law enforcement world. But I feel like it's time for me to really give back some of the things that I did and got paid for. So I'm just doing this kind of as an egalitarian. I want to be, and I want to be at ILEETA. I miss my people at ILEETA. So it gives me an opportunity to come back, spend a week with my loved ones, my family, and hopefully impart on some of those folks a little bit of something that I know that maybe they don't.
Love it. And yeah, your family has missed you, brother. I honestly, speaking for myself and my 400 best friends, we've missed you. And I will tell you, when we look at who needs to be in that room, what is the audience, the primary audience for a class like this?
Well, really, it's anyone who wants to create content. So you may be someone who's done it for years, and you may think you can get better, and you can. And you may actually be able to help lend a hand in helping me teach it too. If you're a very experienced content creator, raise your hand. I want to hear from you. Because I may be smart. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in that room, no matter what. If there's ILEETA people in there, I am not the smartest guy in the room. So it's those experienced people, but it's people who are just kind of going, I think I have a voice. I think I have a thing I want to say. I may just want to say it one time, but I don't know how to do it. It may not be the person who wants to write for a website on the regular, like a monthly column or anything, but someone who feels like they have something to say in some fashion online. And a lot of times that also, in fact, I've heard this from other people, it does help you hone your actual training. So if you know how to do it in 5 minutes, and you know how to do it in a way it's read in 5 minutes, then you get a little bit better at doing it in the classroom for 8 hours. So there's kind of an ancillary benefit to doing your writing or doing content that's video, is that you actually do become a little bit better, in the job that you generally have, whether it's an FTO or you're on the range or you're in the mat room. So it does help your presentation style if you have the ability to take that and turn it into 5 minutes or 750 words. So even if you don't plan on publishing, there's definitely a benefit to you coming there and going, oh, okay, I can refine this. I can turn that 20 minutes into 10, and that gives me 10 more minutes to do another thing.
Love it. And Doug, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm genuinely grateful that you're back. You have a lot to add in a space that many of us have zero skill in, and we've always kind of looked to you for some guidance. So I'm very thankful that we're going to see you there again this year. Any parting words before we send you off?
I'm honored to be back. I'm elated to be back. I can't wait to see my brothers and sisters, and it's going to be a fantastic week in St. Louis.
Awesome. Cannot wait. Hey, Doug, stick around. I got a couple other questions for you after the recording ends here.